Yeah, I found HR late in my career. I distinctly remember early on in my career, I had asked someone about, well, what about this HR thing? Do you think I'd be any good at it? And they said, oh no, you don't want to do HR at all. It's all policies and procedures, and you don't get to talk to people, and there's no interaction with others, and you really don't want to do HR. So I left it. And it was a good 8 to 10 years later that the idea of HR crept back into my mind. And I did a little bit of research and went ahead and studied for the PHR certification. So that's kind of how it all started, purely by accident. And then started working with a nonprofit in New Mexico. Loved this nonprofit, loved working with them, and never had any ideas of doing anything other than work with this nonprofit in New Mexico for the rest of my life. So working with a nonprofit, I thought I'd never leave. And then I had the fortune to go do some traveling, some international traveling. I took 2 trips, loved it, had a great time, and then woke up one Saturday morning and was just ready for something different. It was just a change, and given the 2 trips that previous week, someone at work had irked me, and I was just irked enough and unsettled enough to get out the computer and open up the computer one Saturday morning and apply for a position with Doctors Without Borders. Why Doctors Without Borders? Someone had mentioned it during the past couple of weeks. It was the first thing I thought of that came to mind. Decided to work out my frustrations on the application because I knew for a fact they would not hire me. It was an elite, amazing, incredible organization. This was a great way for me to just work out my frustrations and just get it out of my system. So I applied. I just applied. I spent a couple hours working on it, applying, did all the stuff, got done, shut the computer. Okay, got it all worked out of my system. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to hit it. I'm going to make it work, and forgot about it. And then I got an email 6 weeks later asking me to go to Austin for an interview at my expense. And I talked to a friend about it and told her I'm not going to go. They're not going to hire me. This is just I don't have the money. I'm just not going to do it. And I had made that decision. And then my friend called me later that night and said, I found you a cheap ticket to Austin. You got to go. So I took a couple days off work and got on the plane and thought, all right, well, at least I'm going to get a trip out of Austin. Never been there. Went to Austin, went to the interview, had a great time at the interview, laughed and giggled, got done, and said, okay, that's done. It's done. Go back to work. And then they just kept calling. Can you go to Welcome Days in New York? Can you come hear more about what's going on? Can you go to training in Paris for 2 weeks? Yes, of course, I can do that. And it just kind of kept happening. They kept calling, I kept going through the next step, the next step, the next step. And at the end of each step, I kept saying, all right, it's done. And it wasn't until they called me and said, okay, we have an assignment for you in Kenya, where I realized, okay, this is real. I'm really going.
So when you were looking at Kenya, when you're looking at moving from Albuquerque to Kenya, what were the thoughts that were crossing your mind in terms of the unknowns, and what worries might have been in your mind?
The biggest worry was how far ahead do I plan for this? Do I plan just for the Kenya trip, which was to be a 6-month assignment and then come back and be done with it? Or do I need to set my life up so that I can do more? I mean, how do I manage the interim? That was the unknown. What if I get out there and I don't like it and I want to come back? Or what if I get out there and I don't do a good job and they send me back? Or what if I get out there and I love it and they love me and I decide to make this a career? How do I manage that interim, that first assignment? How do I manage that? So I think that was the all-consuming thought. I knew everything was unknown. Everything was going to be different. There wasn't going to be, I would be surprised by any similarities.
Were you worried about being lonely? Were you worried about your house, what life you're leaving behind, any relationships?
Sure. I was worried about all of that. About being lonely? No, because I figured that I'd be too excited and everything would be too new for me to worry about being lonely. Lonely never occurred to me. Leaving friendships behind, I've learned enough to know that good friendships are never lost. And sometimes we're together with people for a long time, sometimes a short time. And any time is okay. So yeah, there might be people that I might lose touch with. But that happens in life. And the good friends you never lose touch with. You always stay in touch with them. The house, the stuff, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. And I'm in a situation where I don't have to worry about children or significant other or any of that to do.
And you had ground control here. You had one person that you pretty much looked at as...
Very much.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. This would never have happened for me without the support of friends and family. And everybody had their jobs. Okay, this friend, you're the boss of me while I'm gone. Anything, papers, mail, house, bills, you just have to do it. I gave her complete control of my checking account, everything. I just have to trust you to make any decision you need to make, and I will support that. I had a friend who was technical support. All right, I'm going to need a computer. I'm going to need help. I'm going to need you to convert some movies into DVDs. I'm going to need technical support while I'm out there. I don't know what I need. You're in charge of plugs. I don't know anything about plugs, what voltage or wiring or what adapters or... All right, you're in charge of computers. This person, he wanted to be in charge of something. Okay, you're in charge of gum. When I need gum, you're going to send me gum. I mean, it was just, everybody had their job. I had the hairdresser, right? All right, you're in charge of hair. What do I need to do? How do I need to take care of it? You're going to have to cut my hair for a 6-month assignment. I'm not going to be back. We'll fix it. What shampoo do I need to take? I mean, everybody was involved in this decision. Family, how am I going to reach you? How are we going to stay in touch? I'm not staying in touch. You need to know that I'm going to get out there and I might not be able to stay in touch because I might be busy or doing anything, and we just need to know that that's okay. So, yeah, ground control and a lot of support, and everybody had their roles, and people who volunteered, I would give them jobs. Okay, this is your job. This is how you can help me do this. And there's no way this could have happened without that. It's impossible. You need that. And it's a great way to keep in touch, right? While you're out there. In hindsight, it's a good question. Because that's how I did keep in touch with some people, is they all had their jobs. And they would talk to each other about their jobs. It was, well, what are you in charge of?
Well, it's kind of an interesting little HR wrinkle, yeah, isn't it? Being the HR person of your team of ground control.
Yeah. I didn't think of that, but absolutely. You delegate and you hear, and asking for help. Hardest thing in the world to do, right? So I had to go out and ask for help. Hey, I'm going to do this and I need you. Asking for help from the nonprofit that I was working at. Here's an opportunity. It's all up in the air. I don't know what it looks like, but I need your help. I want to pursue it, but I need this kind of support from you. Is this possible? Can we make this work? And everybody, it must have been a good fit because no one said to me, don't do it. Not a single person. I had animals. Who's going to take care of the animals? I had a friend in charge of my dogs. I need help. I don't know what to do with my dogs for 6 months while I figure this out. I need this help. So
you needed to have everything secure so that you didn't have to think about it, but not so secure that you couldn't undo it if you decided that in 6 months that was enough for you.
Yeah. I just had to put it in place for 6 months. And just enough to cover me so we could all together figure out what was working. And then to be able to come back and decide what to do from there.
And how long ago is that now?
2 years.
How long?
2 years. It's been 2 years now.
So you're still in the world.
So still in the world, yeah. And yeah, came back and okay, this is working for me. I'd like to do it again. And so let's make things a little bit more permanent. And now it's not just 6 months. Now it's indefinite. So resettling and reorganizing those kinds of things. Find a more permanent place for the dogs. ask my hairdresser to teach me how to cut my own bangs so I could manage those on my own. those kinds of things. Yeah.